Only certain ways you can end tabla. You can't actually just end them.
I know.
There's a tradition.
It's so incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jessica Wesh, and I'll be your service leader. And I'd like to welcome you to Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists. If you are visiting, please participate as you feel comfortable. You're invited to stay and introduce yourself and get to know us following the service. Our congregation is committed to individual freedom of belief. We welcome diversity. We seek to promote a sense of community that fosters religion, which enriches the spirit. We are a mostly lay-led, homegrown Vashon-style community, strengthened and enriched by weaving together volunteer contributions of members and friends. And our community is supported and guided by our minister, Reverend Victoria Poling. We want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Squabash people, the Salish Coast natives. The Puyallup people have lived on and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. And we recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small step towards true allyship, and we commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous people of this land and beyond. As we begin our service, please take a couple of moments to relax and take deep breaths. Bring your attention to this moment of communal reflection and sharing. I'd like to invite Marilee Runyon to light our chalice and share our chalice reading.
Good morning. This is Here to Transform by the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. Welcome to this place where certainty transforms to questions. This place that takes what is and imagines what can be. Welcome to this space where what was fixed begins to shift, where rigidity embraces unfolding. As we join in the dance of transformation, welcome to this moment of change where together we transfigure and transcend together.
We have an opening reading by Maya Cyphers.
This is a reading from Wendell Berry. We clasp the hands of those who go before us and the hands of those who come after us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms and the larger circle of lovers whose hands are joined in a dance, and the larger circle of all creatures passing in and out of life, who move also in a dance, to a music so subtle and vast that no ear hears it except in fragments.
So we have a song from Kevin Joyce and Bill Moyer, our guests. And this song is called The Island Song.
I live on an island, that's where I call home. Such a perfect metaphor for being alone. Don't you worry about me, plenty of fine people out here. My best friends in the world, I see them once or twice a year. Come on out to the island, leave the city behind you. You can act all crazy, nobody's gonna mind you. But don't you build no bridges, cause that ain't right. But you can come and visit anytime you like. Anytime you like. You take a boat to get there, and another to leave. It's the magic of the fairies, you just gotta believe. Even though the people live on island time, the boats don't wait for no one, you gotta get yourself in line. Come on out to the island, leave the city behind you. You can act all crazy, nobody's gonna mind you. Don't you build no bridges, cause that ain't right. But you can come and visit anytime you like. Anytime you like. My friends in the city just don't understand what I'm doing living here. Exactly what is my plan? What could be so appealing about having nothing to do? People People are starting to wonder whatever happened to you. Come on out to the island, leave the city behind you. You can act all crazy, nobody's gonna mind you. But don't you build no bridges, cause that ain't right. But you can come and visit anytime you like. Anytime you like. I think we're gonna stay here till the end of our days. Gonna spend a lifetime learning island ways. We got a place in the woods if you got a bottle of wine. 20 or 30 times a year, that would really be fine. Come on out to the island, leave the city behind you. You can act all crazy, nobody's gonna mind you. But don't you build no bridges, cause that ain't right. But you can come to visit anytime you like. Anytime you like. Anytime you like.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. So I'm going to introduce our speaker today, Bill Moyer. Bill is a radical solutionary. I love that. I love that. And he is committed to addressing root problems by supporting the capacity, cohesion, and vision of a vibrant social movement. Bill co-founded and has directed the progressive activist organization Backbone campaign for over 20 years. Backbone has emerged as an innovative force in the theory and practice of artful activism. He grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Due to his father's work with multiple tribes in the 60s and 70s, Bill spent much of his childhood on or near reservations in our state, from Yakima to the Swinomish. Bill lives with his family here in the woods of Vashon. Bill and his collaborators have trained thousands of agents and designed and produced hundreds of creative protests. Backbone is renowned for its innovative tactics, ranging from light projection to giant net banners and giant inflatable imagery to the kayaktivism, made famous through their work on the 2015 Shell No campaign, which was very inspiring to my 10-year-old at the time. Cool. Yeah, it's part of his story.
Wow.
So Bill has this belief that our no is only as powerful as our yes is compelling. And this led to the development of the Solutionary Rail campaign. Bill co-authored the book Solutionary Rail in 2016, and since then the campaign has evolved into a national effort to put U.S. rail infrastructure back in the service of public interests over Wall Street profits. Bill finds the Solutionary Rail work particularly compelling as a strategic antidote to these polarized times. So please welcome me in welcoming Bill to give today's talk.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I feel very honored and humbled. I have to say that I've been more nervous for this than about anything, and I know that's the most illogical thing ever, because the Unitarians are so welcoming, and everything's going to be just fine. Esther, my wife, said, "Bill, just have fun," you know. Yeah. So I to have fun. Part of having fun is being able to invite your brother, my family on island, my chosen family, Kevin Joyce, to play music with me. So please, thank you. So I'll try not to cry the whole time. Yeah, really, that would be really wrong. Oh, whatever. Yeah. So Julia Lakey, she's like, okay, why don't you just like something simple, like protect what you love. You can do anything with that. I'm like, oh, no. It's got to be like polarization. What was the title of this, actually? Polarization. Thank you. Polarization, conviviality, and the war against the imagination. Yeah, the polarization, conviviality, and the war against the imagination. So I'm going to do my best to do that, actually. But forgive me if I don't actually track my notes very well, or I'm going to try to actually let go of that, because I do trust you all, and I do really appreciate our chance to be together. I have to say that getting to do Backbone Campaign for 20 years, it's been pretty amazing. And it wouldn't happen probably anyplace else. It started on Vashon, and I can't think of any other community that would like hold us and have our back for this long and be so generous and say yes. I don't know if any of you knew Jake Lair. One time, Jake, I met him in the egg section of Thriftway. And I think, I can't remember if I was going back to school for music or if I was, but I think it was starting Backbone Campaign. I said, I'm thinking about this thing. I think it would be so cool to bring the Democrats a 100-foot backbone and, stand up to the Bush administration, whatever. And he handed me a business card, and that business card said, permission. Yeah, so I feel like this community is a community that gives us permission to step outside what we are told is the path, because there's no real fixed path. We make the path by walking it. Inspired by a Kevin song as well. This time is deeply challenging. I don't remember a time when I've felt and feel that so many others around me have felt really deeply concerned about the future. And the role of the activist to, make a big splash and define which side are you on, and it has limited purchase in my heart at this moment, when it doesn't seem to me that more polarization is what we need. I need my yes to be so compelling that if I have to say no to something, it makes it more legitimate. I need to be connecting with people who do not just think like me. There's a thing with humans that I learned about by reading David Graeber's book, The Dawn of Everything, which I highly recommend if you haven't read it. Of course, these days I just listen to books because I'd fall asleep if I had to read anything. And he has this fascinating term in there, and I could really use some water. Sorry. Thanks, Kev. Schismogenesis. Go ahead, schismogenesis. Ready? Schismogenesis. Now you've learned something, right? That was worth the ticket price. I know it was free, but whatever. So schismogenesis is this tendency in humans and communities, thank you, brother, to define ourselves by our differences, according to our differences. Schismo means to cleft or to separate, and genesis is to create. So to create separation. So the polarization isn't necessarily something that is like this unheard of phenomenon, but there's something that has accelerated it and deepened it to a place where it's creating an existential crisis, I believe, for our world. Schismogenesis, I was thinking about what is schismogenesis for us. It's like we're the island without a bridge. We define ourselves because we don't have no bridges, but which is good. That's a totally natural, wonderful schismogenesis way to define ourselves, right? Some people on Vashon wear Patagonia, and some people wear Carhartts. Yeah. So I'm trying to split the difference with a Filson. So the polarization, which side are you on? To me, is part of a different strategy it's in someone else's interest, but not in our interests. I got to study, been a student of a framework called grand strategy over the last 20 years. Developed actually out of the Pentagon, a little corner office in the Pentagon that was actually against the military-industrial congressional complex. Very interesting group of people, not particularly well liked in their building, but because their theory was that the strategy of the Pentagon is to keep the money flowing and increase it, and it has very little to do with actually true building security or peaceful world. So Chuck Spinney, my mentor there, he introduced me to this idea, this framework of grand strategy, and the first principle of grand strategy is to expand your alliances, to increase the cohesion between allies, and to deepen the resolve of your people. To do the opposite to your opponent, to divide their alliances, to create conflict, and to instill doubt. And the last aspect of grand strategy, I mean, it's really pretty simple, is to win without sowing the seeds of future conflict. So this comes out from the art of war stuff. And to me, this moment feels like we're being divided and conquered. The wedge issues, the things that we are all, I'm not saying things aren't important that we stand up for, but the fact that when we write off other people as if they have no legitimate grievance, if we think they're just stupid and duped, or worse, or they're racists, there is no way that we're going to build a relationship with them to take on the powers that are actually dividing and conquering us. So I'm really challenged by that in this moment, and I feel like it forces me to find creativity and imagination, to lean into, to fall back into, to rest in my imagination, to listen to the fatigue that comes after 20 years of always saying no and always battling and such. And it's, so the Solutionary Rail project has been a way for me to reach out and build relationships with people who I otherwise would not be connected to. And I think that that's very strategic for the bigger fight. And I think that honestly, it could be an antidote to the painful and very dangerous divisions, the schismogenesis, the extreme schismogenesis that we're amidst. Vashon, you read The Beachcomber this week, and it's just all about the creativity and the good work that's being done here. I'm so proud to be on this island and part of this community. I think that sense of permission is spread through all these various projects that we see out there in the world, and we are imagining something new, whether it's the tool library or Viga, oh my goodness, you all are doing such amazing work, and Vashon Household, and I'm not even going to try to list, obviously, the hundreds of groups that do great work here. So I think it's very natural that we have a conversation about the imagination here. My favorite poem that I keep coming back to is a poem by Diane de Prima called Rant. And I know, is that right? Sounds good. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because I don't want to do that. But I do want to. I'll read little pieces here and there, and I want to say, every man, every woman carries a firmament inside, and the stars in it are not the stars of the sky. Without imagination, there is no memory. Without imagination, there is no sensation. Without imagination, there is no will, desire. History is a weapon in your hand, and you have imagined it. It is thus that you find out for yourself. History is the dream of what can be. I'm going to say it again. History is the dream of what can be. It is the relation between things in a continuum. We are the co-authors of history. There is no set determination of what happens next. That is up to us. The ground of the imagination is fearlessness, Diana said. She says. This is the key piece. The war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed in it. I'll say it again. The war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed in it. War, starvation, climate crisis, lack of homes for working people, lack of health care. Every bit of it is a failure of the imagination. It's a call to us to be that spark, to burn brightly. I want to give a little example of what has been felt good to me about Solutionary Rail. There have been cool things like bringing labor and environmental justice groups, urban folks together, and to talk about how they have common interests, and that's been really cool. But those are people I would naturally be engaged with and feel solidarity with. What's been more interesting and challenging in some ways is to reach out to people in Southeast Washington who are very adamant that we keep the Snake River dams in place, right? And to try to approach them as if they're not just stupid racists who want to kill salmon, And I make a lot of cold calls in my work, and it can be kind of uncomfortable, but I love that part because it's full of surprises. I was talking with an operations officer at a wheat co-op in Southeast Washington. And after we chatted a while about rail as an option to barging, he said to me, well, I think most people really want a world where farmers and salmon thrive. I think that's really true. When we think about this country in the last 45 years, and here's like, who's dividing and conquering? What's he talking about? Okay, neoliberal capitalism. That's kind of a boring term, but But how about the fact that 45 years ago, we deregulated the railroads? The railroads were the longest, oldest public-private partnership in this country, right? They were given the land grants. There was a whole deal of returning benefits back to the public. And they got a lot of benefits. If you look at a map of land grants in Washington State, we're talking about 50% of the land in Washington State was land grant to the railroads. They then got shuffled over to Weyerhaeuser, the buddy of James J. Hill, lived next door in Minneapolis or something like that. Anyway, they've done pretty well. And 45 years ago, we took all the rules away. And that's what we call the deregulation. Well, that's the same time that the rise of globalization happened, and the exporting of jobs and factories, outsourcing, all that started to happen in that time period. The railroads used to, if you think about infrastructure, infra is below the structure. It's what supports, it shapes. Like people say, a budget is a moral document. I would say infrastructure is also a statement of our values. And I know that the rail has complicated and horrible history, but it also is a very efficient form of transportation, efficient in the best way. It uses the least energy. But it used to be a circulatory system that connected communities and farmers and country elevators to markets. But starting in 1970 to, let's say, to now, we've lost about 60,000 miles of rail. 60,000 miles. And another 39,000 miles was spun off to these short line railroads that were basically just a way of not having to deal with or provide service to communities. So all of a sudden, you have family farms that can't get their stuff to market. They have to do the more expensive thing of trucking. They're not connected to other communities because they lost not just freight service, but passenger service. There's a consolidation so that farms become bigger and bigger, and they need giant machinery, and then the towns empty out because you don't have farms with people in them to have to run and take care of the land. And it went from agriculture to agribusiness. That's globalization. That's globalization. I think that's a legitimate grievance. When normal people could no longer live in the communities and thrive in the communities and take care of the land, they could no longer participate in culture. I think that's a legitimate grievance. And I think that's a worthy conversation to have. I would hope that a conversation like that would be a reconnecting conversation, not just for us, but for people there, and an affirmation of the value that these people bring to society. Maybe it would be enough of an affirmation that they, like my friend Seth Watkins in Nebraska, want to be welcoming communities, welcoming people who are crossing the border from very difficult lives into places to actually work the land and take care of the land the way it deserves to be taken care of. We can imagine this. We can imagine returning this rail service, returning this creativity, this circulation in the circulatory system. To me, that's a big deal. And it's a big deal, and it's worth doing for me. I'm excited about it, obviously. I kind of get excited about stuff. But I'm really excited about this, and it's sticking. Because I think that the railroad labor, the environmental justice communities in the inner cities who are impacted by the rail yards and the diesel emissions, the cancer clusters, the people who care about the climate, all these things, and then the farmers, we could have something beautiful together. And I think that's worth fighting for. Fighting for by not just attacking people, but by creating conviviality. Oh, I got the word in. Conviviality. All right. So I want to wrap up and bring the national back down to us here on the island. And imagine you're dipping in the water at quartermaster or Burton, and you look across to Portage, and you see Coast Salish canoes along the beach. And you look up on the hill, and there's a longhouse. And maybe you hear morning prayers coming from that longhouse that the Squabach have reclaimed, and we've helped them reclaim space here. Imagine that you take your electric cart up to the Center Island campus, where we receive health care and education, and there's a whole new fresh batch of students who are on the island to study permaculture. We take our little cart down to K2, and there's a whole program for young people coming to the island and help them establish themselves here by building tiny homes that then go out and be parked on the land of elders who need that little bit of extra help around. Allow the young to establish themselves in this place. In real life, that's actually how I did establish myself at this place. But imagine that everybody who works on the island can afford to live on the island. That we have an island compact, better community, because we're a more diverse community, and people can plan to live their lives here and make their lives here, and they can commit to this place in the way it deserves to be committed to. I have no doubt that all of these things and much, much more are within our grasp. Vashon, we have so much creativity, so much capacity, so much privilege and skill and genius that we can build a future, we can author a future that we are proud of. I know that because I see all of you doing it all the time. She said. Is the war against the matters, is the war against the imagination. The only war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed in it. You can step into the world like a suit of ready-made clothes, or you can etch in light. Your firmament spills into the shape body of your loves, of your community. There's no way out of the spiritual battle. The war is the war against the imagination. You can't sign up as a conscientious objector. The war of the worlds hangs here right now in the balance. It is not a war for this world to keep it a veil. It is a war to keep it a veil of soul making. The war is the war for the human imagination, and no one can fight it but you, and no one can fight it for you. Intellectus means light of the mind. It is not discourse or even language. It's the inner sun. She says the polis is constellated around the sun. Everything we do is coming from that imagination. The fire of our imagination is central. Thank you very much, everybody. As Kevin says, and you'll hear later, you've got to burn more brightly when everything is on fire. Thank you very much. Love you. Forward together.
Bill, thank you so much. It's wonderful. So let's have a moment of contemplation, worship, that old English word that means to consider things of worth. Kevin to play a piece for us to enjoy.
Well, I know a man who, when he was a boy, had his life torn away along with his joy. And he wandered alone in the desert for years with nothing to drink but falling tears. And he can't turn around to the fires behind, 'cause all of those pictures are seared in his mind. So he moves straight ahead like he's barely alive, saying, please wake me up when we finally arrive. But he made his path by walking, didn't he? He made his path by walking. He made his path by walking, didn't he? He made his path by walking. So now look at you, how you seem such a mess, like you've nothing to show for your life. Like the rest, how it feels like you've lost and you so want to be found, as all of your plans come crumbling down, and you can't find the courage to leap up and fight the small well-known demons that haunt you at night. So you lie there and wonder, how long's it gonna take till I'm in loving arms and my heart doesn't ache? I walk, don't you? You make your path by walking. You make your path by walking, don't you? You make your path by walking. Well, me, I'm the same. I got lost just like you. I went looking for trouble and finding it too. I kept falling in holes where the light is all gone. So I'd sit through the night and I'd wait until dawn. But then in the night, I'd get lost in a dream, and somehow that'd shatter the space in between. And my hands can't fix what's broken my head, and my feet, they don't move 'cause they need to be led. But I'll make my path by walking, won't I? I'll make my path by walking. I'll make my path by walking, won't I? I'll make my path by walking. Now everyone's wandering around in a daze, 'cause there's too many heartbreaks in too many ways. And when somebody asks us, we don't make a sound, 'cause we'll never give in to what's bringing us down. So tell me, we're all in the same sinking boat, just wondering aloud if our bodies will float, if we'll wash up on shore and finally stand. But how we gonna move when our feet hit the sand? Well, we'll make a path by walking, won't we? We'll make a path by walking. We'll make a path by walking. We'll make a path by walking, won't we? We'll make a path by walking, won't we? So walk, 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 walk.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hear that song in my mind this week. All week it'll go with me. Now it's time for joys and concerns. So we're going to turn off the recording. Here we go. As a caring community of the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists, we commit to supporting our congregation. Financial resources help us pay speakers and staff and support our social justice programs and maintain our building. Please support VIUU with your pledges and offerings so that we can continue to be a vital community. Our congregation engages beyond our walls for peace of belief and protection of the planet and its inhabitants. Once a month, we contribute the financial offering to a regional, national, or international organization that aligns with our values. This week's offering supports the Backbone campaign. Do we have? And as we pass the baskets, please join in singing We Give Thanks again on the back of the laminated order of service.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, those far away, for the time we share. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. For all gathered here, those far away, for this time we share, for the love we care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
So we have a closing reading that Maya will read for us.
This is another reading by Wendell Berry. We don't have a right to ask whether we're going to succeed or not. The only question we have a right to ask is what the right thing to do. What does this earth require of us if we want?
I'd like to ask you a question from the bottom of my mind. It's a place that doesn't seem to get much light. My question goes something like, how do you manage to be so kind when all the world's looking for a fight? You say you gotta burn brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You got thing is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. Okay, I know about turning the other cheek and everything. Held by 10 years old, I'd memorized every right and wrong. I'm talking about something else, something to make my soul bell ring. It's like I really love the music, but I don't know the song. You say you gotta burn brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. All right, you're starting to piss me off and maybe to confuse me. What'd you think I didn't hear you the first time? It's just that I'm real busy. I got so many things to do that amuse me, and besides, it's all so messed up out there and I like to keep my world in line. You say you gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. Fine, you win. I'm listening, I'm looking you in the eye. It's like trying to remember something I once knew. But who am I to stand up here and make some kind of crazy battle cry? And you're like, yes, exactly. Who are you? You say you gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You got to burn brightly. You gotta burn more brightly when everything is on fire. You gotta burn.
That was marvelous. Love it. So we're going to extinguish our chalice, but not what burns brightly within us. And Marilee is going to come up and read our closing.
This is a prayer, for living intention by Joseph M. Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving.
Our formal service is now over, and this is a moment that we take to give thanks to Bill and Kevin and Marilee, Maya, Dennis, Setup Group 2, and all of you for participating and bringing your voices to this service today. We now have a moment for announcements, and I'll kick it off by saying the women's group is this week. So it's going to be on Wednesday at 6 at my house. So if you'd like more details or information, please reach out to me. I'm in the directory. You can text me. and we'd love to see any of us that are femme identified are welcome. So, any other announcements?
Well, the men's group will meet here at 6 o'clock on Thursday, potluck. I'll probably have some popcorn, but bring whatever you like. You know, the men's group always likes food.
Right on.
Are you meeting here?
Yeah, we're meeting here, yes.
Next week, the Mystery and Wonder team will be leading this service, and the theme is the challenges of acceptance. I hope you can be here.
I'm this tall. I'm about 20 years younger. I'm Alex, who's having a very warm vacation, honeymoon, who knows what she's doing. This is our March 28th, fourth Sunday potluck. Anybody here can be a member or not, please come. We do a lot of things. I don't know, we eat a lot. I want to ask people, if you put your items on here, to put your name on the side. We don't care if you show up, just I'll pick up the food, okay?
Hi, I'm Kim, and Kirk and I and the rest of the stewardship committee really appreciate the 11 folks that got their pledges in. Those pledges are incredible and important to us with regard to the budget. And so Kirk's going to come up and say the big number. So can we have a drum roll?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And the number is 25,400. Yeah. In relation to the goal, which is 100,000. But keep those pledges coming in. I know when I made a pledge, and I'll just blurt this out, I went to the newsletter, and at the top of it, it says pledge. It's a red label. And I tapped on that, and that was for PayPal. And I don't do PayPal. But if you go into the purple label, just underneath it, it says donate, tap that, and the pledge form comes up. So it's not, and we're working on making it more evident, I think. Good job, Kim. You color really well. Thank you.
I got my tax return, so I'll be making my pledge. So now it's time for coffee and treats.
Bravo. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.